So what happens when you take a fervent appreciation for an amazing guitarist and their storied body of work and career, a very cool signature model from said guitarist that throws a great rock and metal twist on an already classic guitar body design, and also an insane desire to work on multiple build projects all at once? You try and make one of your own. Hello everyone, my name is Brandon Tate, and in this video today we are going to take a look at my own little adventure through combining various parts and a strong exercise in home ingenuity in making my own custom variant of the very cool J5 signature Telecaster guitar. Among the 3 guitar build projects that I've taken on, this is the third one I started, the first one that I completed just as it was the easiest. But it was my effort to go out and make my own kind of little version of a guitar from a guitarist that I love deeply, and that's what this is. Before we dive into this, I do want to throw out a massive disclaimer. I am not a luthier by any stretch. I have no sort of qualifications to, build guitars or anything like that. This is just kind of, screw it, let's see what fits. But nonetheless, it was a project I had a load of fun putting together, and I'm excited to take everyone kind of through the whole build process of this. Also, please know that you can find the timestamps for this video in the description of wherever you're watching this video. And so with that, let's get started on how I made my own custom style and variant of the J5 signature Telecaster. Before we get started, I do feel it's important to provide a little background info on the inspiration for this build. J5, who's played for Rob Zombie, among many others, and has his own body of awesome solo work, has played on Telecasters for a great chunk of his career. Through Squier, there are 2 particular stylings of this guitar, one in black with chrome hardware, and the other is gold on gold hardware. And both models retail at about $500 US new. Meanwhile, my first experience with the J5 Teles came when I bought a used black with chrome one here in Denver in the fall of 2019. And I do still own that guitar to this day. While I'm admittedly no shredder myself, I'm more of a riffer. J5 was the guy who sparked my love of Telecasters, and of course this reflects in my current collection, which I've used across multiple videos I have on my channel. So with already actually having a production-made J5 Telecaster, how did it come to be that I get started with making one out of parts? Like any musician could probably tell you, it started with a lot of eBay and Reverb browsing. I came across a listing on eBay in which someone was selling these finished but not anywhere loaded or hardware filled in J5 bodies in the gold version. I'm not exactly sure if it was maybe just like a surplus thing or they were just cast-offs that were never used in production. I don't know, but they were available and it was a pretty good price to nab one of these, so I thought, let's start this project. It was just a matter of buying the parts, waiting, and then getting started. When the guitar body showed up with only in a matter of days from me ordering it, I was thrilled with how it looked right out of the box, and truth be told, it had very little, if at all, any sort of minor dings or anything like that. Things that just weren't really visible unless you looked at it really hard, which I was excited about. There were a number of ways that I could get started with this, but I decided first to look at how I would set up the bridge for this guitar. And then I ran into problems right off the bat. Typically, the J5 Telecasters have a high-mass bridge to accommodate a humbucker pickup. However, the first high-mass bridge that I bought for this project actually didn't fit the mounting screws of the guitar. And for the life of me, I could not find a replacement that fit the body that I was working with. So I opted to go for using a hardtail fender bridge, which covered up the old mounting holes that I wasn't going to use, and also lined up with the string holes perfectly. Using a set of nails just to drop into the string holes, I looked to line up the drilling holes where I would mount this hardtail bridge, and just went in and screwed them in. Looking at the back of the guitar where the strings feed through the 6 holes on the back through the top, I immediately ran into another issue where the holes that were already in place did not accommodate the string furls that I purchased for this build. However, this was an easy fix for both my dad and I to make, as we just went in and enlarged the string furl holes, and then after that, all the string furls fit appropriately. Another one of the easiest things with getting this project going was mounting the output jack. I simply purchased a mounting jack with an oval mount and drilled out holes once again and put in the screws appropriately. Of course, there'd be coming back to remove the output jack later to set it up with the other wiring of the guitar, but it was just easy to have it there ready to go and pop it back in when needed. Yet another easy yet very important piece that I went into with this guitar was also putting in a Dunlop strap lock system. Strap locks save lives. Strap locks are amazing, and I would have these on any guitar or bass 11 times out of 10 rather than take the risk of flinging it around on stage and having it come right off the strap and hit the ground. The thought of that is pretty scary. And thankfully, when it came to how to put the wiring together for this particular guitar build, I had the exact template I needed right next to me the whole time. For pickups on this guitar, I knew I wanted to use a set of DiMarzio D-Activators, as I have used on all my Telecasters at least in some way. I had one available in the bridge of another Squier Telecaster that I was no longer going to use after this project, so I simply removed that pickup and resoldered the stock pickup that came with that particular guitar, which I actually did have to drill out the hole for that just slightly a little more with a Forstner bit, just as the switch I got didn't quite fit it right away, but after that, it fit perfectly. The Squier J5 Telecasters are set up to where they only have 2 volume pots for both pickups and the toggle switch to toggle between the bridge and the neck pickups. Given that I already dropped in the bridge pickup, I got that soldered up exactly as it's set up on my black J5. Using a kit of colored wires that I had bought for this project and more, I went about creating a track that would run up through the guitar through the neck pickup cavity up to the control switch so that I could solder the control switch appropriately. And then of course also running that back into the control cavity of the guitar just to mount onto all the pots and the output jack. And then using a very long white wire, that was my hot out to the output jack. When it came to at least preparing the pickups to be mounted, I ended up drilling out wider holes within the body so that the mounting screws for the pickups would freely float. This ended up being a great idea because, well, it's not going to be visible, and 2, there was no way without making the little screw holes wider that I was going to be able to mount the pickups appropriately. Now, remember my big disclaimer at the start of the video where I said I'm not a luthier by any stretch? With the neck of this guitar, this is where that really applies. The neck I got for this guitar, despite it having a 12-inch fingerboard radius like the actual production J5s do, did not fit this guitar when I got it out of the box for the first time. And in the interest of not shipping this back and trying to go out and find perhaps another very close, if not exact match to fit this guitar body in its neck slot, some adjustments were made. The best possible way my dad and I thought about making this neck fit into the neck slot on this guitar body was to mark off part of the area of the neck just below the fretboard and then chisel away at part of the wood such that the area we did chisel away at wouldn't be so readily visible, but would allow the neck to fit in the neck pocket. For tuning machines, I yet again salvaged from my other old Squier guitar a set of Tone Ninja locking tuners, and those were easy to install. I dropped them into the back of the headstock, lined them up appropriately, mounted the tuners to the headstock, and then dropped in the locking screws once again. For strings on this guitar, I opted to use a set of skinny top, heavy bottom strings from Ernie Ball, as I only intended to use this guitar for E standard and drop D tunings, not counting what other tunings I also pitch shift with this guitar. While I did try to use the nut that came with the neck I bought for this guitar, I ended up replacing it as the nut slots were cut too low, and I had terribly low action as a result. However, with the new nut that I put in this guitar, the opposite effect happened, and that the action ended up being quite high. So I have gone in and filed that out a little bit, just so the action is just a hair bit lower. It's a lot more comfortable than where it was pre-filing, and then with the other original nut that was in this neck. And then I'm also working on adjusting that at the bridge as needed. But so far, I'm really liking it. It does feel very playable. And finally, the last bit of hardware pieces to add to this was a set of string trees at the top of the headstock to hold down the top 4 strings, and then also installing the back cover of the toggle switch. And that's it. that's my build process for making my own little custom variant of the J5 signature Telecaster guitar by Squier. Of course, if anyone has any questions, comments, or even feedback about how this project went, as you saw it in this video, certainly let me know in the comments of wherever you're watching. Very much looking forward to having any discussions there. But yeah, nonetheless, I'm really excited that this could be the first project of 3 that I finished. It's definitely got me super motivated to see the other 2 projects that are still in progress to the end, and I'm very much looking forward to making those videos as well. One of the other projects that I have working on has been in development since June of 2020 and has been a slow grind, and I'm just waiting on warmer weather in Colorado to kind of go and finish that one off and then do some additional hardware assembly there. And then the other I started in holiday of 2020, again, maybe needing some more warm weather to at least get primer on that project, because it's all just parts and pieces right now, not even painted to any extent, but nonetheless looking forward to that as well. With this project, there was definitely a lot I learned along the way that I think is going to help with the other 2 projects that I'm doing. And then just with some afterthoughts now that this is done, I'm definitely happy with how it turned out for being my first guitar build, and even some of the, that maybe little crude adjustment on the neck we had to do just to get it to fit. I have experienced minimal issues so far with playing this. One of the things I did notice with the bridge pickup in this case with the B and E strings is that they're a little ways off of the pulls on the pickups. I haven't found that to be a major issue at all, just because it's when I've played this through like my metal rigs and stuff on my headrush board, it's those high notes and high strings are still ringing out as they should, really loud. And then also my 7 and 8 string guitars also kind of have a similar situation going on, where on the bridge pickup, the strings are maybe not exactly down the center on the pulls. I haven't found that to be an issue on either of those as well, so I don't think that's too much of a cause of concern. I'm looking forward to using this as my E standard and drop D guitar. The actual J5 that I own, I'm now going to put that in D standard and drop C, and then of course some additional tunings there with pitch shifting. But yeah, again, I'm really happy with how this project turned out, and I already have the first sort of little cover video I'm going to do lined up for this. I'm looking forward to putting that out soon. And as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see some of the stuff I'm up to on a regular basis, I will have my socials linked down in the description of this video and in my end card. And again, with the circumstances that still continue to be, I hope you're being safe with your loved ones, and that for us musicians, again, we can go out and enjoy maybe just a little more expanded time on stage once again. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.